and the startup was doing on-demand food delivery in the UK. We launched
Okay.
in London, Bristol, Bath, and we were doing a bit well. We raised about $1 million, but we didn't raise enough money to make us scale properly.
Okay.
It was a very capital-intensive business. Our competition raised more than us, but I was lucky that I got partnership with one of our biggest competition, who then integrated my business into theirs, and
Okay.
enabled me to exit, and I became an investor. And then
Okay.
that was 2015. I started coming back to Nigeria on a regular basis,
Okay.
working with entrepreneurs, working with startup. And
Okay.
2 years ago, I joined a VC firm called Novastar, where we invest in early stage
Okay.
businesses across West and East Africa. So that's me.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Nice to have you here, sir. Thank you very much for doing this with us. I hope everybody heard him clearly. There's no conversation without you guys. Okay, so let me just launch right to the conversation for this afternoon. So the art of the start, and this is quite peculiar to us because in Bookhub we're a collection of young individuals. Most of us just, okay, not most of us, but a large percentage of us just left school and crossing over to the labor market. Then thankfully COVID-19 is here, and also there's a lot of reskilling, upskilling. We have business owners amongst us who have to like revamp their services, and if say there were some services that are not part of what they do before, they have to like initiate it, and not due to this pandemic. So that was why we actually picked the art of the start, and it was a cue from Guy Kawasaki's book. I don't know if you've read it, but The Art of the Start. And so I'll just launch right into it. I'll start with a personal experience. So I took a project management course, a product management course this pandemic, I think some 1 month or 2 months ago. I wanted to, okay, put myself abreast, okay, what's happening here? I've been hearing of product management and all, and I just wanted to, okay, let me see what it looks like. So I went into it and everything. And one of the speakers said that the best way to actually learn this thing would be to do it. And here was I clueless as to, okay, how do I start? Like, what do I do? I don't know any startups around. I don't know. Am I supposed to start looking for startups? Okay, I want to manage your product. Like, I'm a newbie. So I was quite clueless and confused and all. I had to speak to like a couple of friends. So I'm sure that this is not peculiar to me alone. There are a lot of people here, or if not everybody, that's wanting to start something like that, say something that they were not used to. I'm a pharmacist by profession, so I mean the tech world and all of that is quite new to me. So I'm sure that there are folks like that from different industries and all, like they would have probably try to change paths. Okay, let me see what's here. Let me see if this is something I can do, if I can start something here. And I'm sure that they would have all been clueless at some point or the other. So I want us to just give us a pep talk, because I have a list of questions here for you to answer. So you can just give us a pep talk as to if there's a how to start something, or do you just, like, there's just this mantra that everybody says, just do it. Like, am I just going to just do it? Is it a contextual statement? So yeah, you have the floor.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to unpack in what you just said. By the way, well
Okay.
done for taking that move to do something beyond your comfort zone. I think there is a lot of wisdom in that. Just do it. I think the secret and the biggest wisdom about starting anything, and this is if there's anything you guys want to take out of today's talk, is this: the biggest secret is of starting anything is start.
Okay.
It's basically, although there is a lot to it, there is more to starting than just starting for different people. And this has to do with, there's a lot of generalism that you can have there and say, okay, just start, just do it. It's just do it is not as simple and as easy for everyone, based on temperament and also based on where we are starting from. Not everybody is starting from the same place. So someone who is a trust fund baby who has like $100,000 that his father is allocated for him to start something is different from someone who doesn't have that, and also the risk profile of people is quite different. So someone who that if you start something and you fail, there is still a place where you can land, i.e. get a job in your dad's company, or you can go back to your dad's house and without rent. It's a
Okay.
different way to start. That person's starting is different from somebody who you're going to university was a
Okay.
struggle. Everybody put money into it for you to go to university.
Okay.
Your
Okay.
your parents cast all their hopes on you, and they were
Okay.
just waiting for you to graduate. And then you
Okay.
finish, and you want to get. They're expecting to get a job. So
Okay.
now this is the time for you to start paying back, or even sponsoring your siblings, and then
Okay.
and then you finish with maybe a 2-1 on a first class, and then you got a job in a bank that is paying you decent salary. It's not a lot, but it's a decent salary. And then you have this crazy dream of starting a business. Now, the way you're going to evaluate the risk and the need to start is totally different from somebody whose dad has the money and he has a job and his uncle runs a company and he has
Okay.
4 offers. Now, so I say that to say, and I really want to stress that, especially for a lot of motivational speakers that will say, hey, you can do it, just believe it and start something. Your mates are starting business, you are working for somebody, you can never be anybody in life, or you can never be successful if you're not starting your own business. That's lie. It's a big, big, big lie. Statistically, the people that are most successful in the world are people that are working for other people. Because by the sheer number of people that are working for other people,
Okay.
the billionaires in the world are less than 2,000. But the people that are earning over $150,000 or $300,000 per annum, who are okay, successful in what they're doing, there are hundreds of thousands and millions of them all over the world. So statistically, people that are successful, most of them are not working for other people. They are working. Most of them are working for other people. They're not working for themselves. So that is it's a lot of lies and a lot of oversimplification that comes with it just started. So I said all of that to stress the fact that starting it, yes, that's the best way to start something, but you have to think about a profile of people. And then when you start something, it's also your risk profile change. So a good example is myself. When I started my business, actually started my business in this room, and this is my study, and this is where I started ideating. This is why I made the first call to the restaurant, and but I was starting from somewhere where I knew that, okay, I've got a PhD, I'm an academic. I was just in my postdoc. I wanted to leap into this business. It's risky. I'll be earning less when I started, but I have friends who will put some money into my business initially, and even if everything failed, okay, I've got a wife who has a job, so I could depend on my
Okay.
or if everything for them, we can move back to Nigeria and then I'll start something. There's a lot of calculations there. Now,
Okay.
I wouldn't take some of those risks now that I have a son, we have some more dependency and stuff. Maybe the way I would take the risk is totally different from
Different. Okay.
so having that in the back of your mind is very important. Having said all of that, one needs to be able to be bold and take some actions, especially if it's coming from within you. You know that there's something you want to do. And the reason why you're not doing it is not because if you fail, it's going to be really, really bad. It's going to affect everyone. But it's because you are afraid of the hard work or the pain
Okay.
or the leap you have to make, or you're afraid of the learning curve that you have to go through. So example for myself was I had to learn everything from the scratch when I started my business. I didn't know anything about business. Apart from I knew that people buy and sell. I didn't know a lot about business plan. I had to learn how to write that. I didn't know anything about how to do unit economics, how to understand customer acquisition, how to hire people, technology that is needed to build my business. At one point, we have about 100 people working, more than 100 people working for the business. I've never run a business before then that I had one person. And first business was hiring hundreds of people, but I had to learn on the go how to pitch to investors, how to interact, and how to write a pitch deck. And those things were like pain points and learning curve that was steep for me. So you need to understand that. Okay, if the reason you're not starting, it's not because what you're about to do is crazy. It's just because you are afraid of the pain. Then you're not going to do anything. If you calculate all of those, you're not going to do anything. So you need to move and jump. So I'll conclude by saying that, yes, the secret to starting is start. However, that start is not as simple as it is for different people. Everybody has different place where they're starting from and their risk profile. However, having said all of that, the third thing is that you need to discount the pain. You need to go for it. You need to go through the pain sometimes, do the learning curve, do the homework. There are many times in this room that I have to read overnight. I have to work. My friends then were saying that, wow, Dotun, you're really crazy. You're doing this. Because I was learning. I would be in meetings with my friends and I would have gone with my wife and family friend and I would just be thinking about something and I'm gone. They have to call me. Where are you? Because I have to learn. There was a lot of learning that time. So there might be that aspect for many people that are hearing this. You might have to change your thinking. You have to learn a lot, read books, and go through a lot of pain to be able to start.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. That was quite awesome. You said a lot of things. So I think I wrote down some questions from what you said, but then I think I'll have them later. So Bookhub members, you can actually use the chat room to ask our questions. We can take them from here. So I shouldn't be the one asking all of the questions. So I'm sure you guys came with questions. So use the chat room, type your questions. I'm sure Dr. Dotun would read them, or either I or him will read them, then we'll answer the questions. So I'll start with this. Okay, I think you already answered two of the questions I first made. I was like, is there a particular way to start? And you said that starting is peculiar for different people. Like it depends on your risk profile, where you're coming from. So yeah, I think I'll start with our village people in Nigeria. Okay, sorry. So usually in Nigeria, or it's a very Nigerian thing, that when you actually want to start something and you have an idea, you're very scared of telling people because you think that the idea is grand or they would steal it from you. So from Guy Kawasaki's book, he said something about telling people your ideas and all. Like he encouraged that telling people your idea is one of the greatest way or best way to start. So I'd want to ask you, putting it in the Nigerian context, like this is a toxically competitive environment. You want to be careful of telling your friends stuff. You want to be careful of telling your family members stuff because you don't know, like people just steal ideas and they do not even give credit to where they get the idea from. So how do we go about that if we're supposed to actually tell people that, okay, this is what I am doing? Like, because telling people actually helps you mull over the idea, helps you refine it, like you get to think a lot about it, and also Tolu Abiodun says tell God. Okay, so how do we go about that, looking at the kind of environment that we are in?
I used to have a t-shirt. Actually, I still have some of them now. When I was running Starter, and we had this t-shirt that we had stuff there that we wrote there. Okay. It says, ideas are underrated. Execution is the key. Okay. Your idea worth nothing until it is executed.
Executed. Okay.
So if your idea can be easily executed by other people because you told them, it doesn't matter whether you tell them. When you start executing it, they can execute it as well. Except that idea is something that has to sit in your head forever. But if it's something that you have to launch at some point, whether you tell people at the beginning and you're afraid that they will do it or not, it's irrelevant. Because when you launch it, other people can see that. And if it's a very easily copyable, which again speak about the quality of the idea, if it's easily copyable idea that other people can do and even do better than you, then it doesn't matter.
Okay, so hold up there. Let me interject. So usually, okay, I've heard it before, or say I was in a church one time and the pastor said something about the fact that when you tell people your idea, or when you tell somebody something, that you find out that sometimes you might not be able to do it. So there is that too. Like it's a lot of.
So there are lots of So we're putting some things that are, again, I'm African, I'm Nigerian, I grew up in Nigeria, I know. But and I understand where that is coming from, but I would say it's mostly bobos, to be honest. It's a mindset. If you think that you're telling somebody your ideas, then you know what to do because there's some supernatural forces that would stop you from doing it because that person or maybe that person or one spirit force is wisdom. It's a lot of it's a mindset. And if you're a Christian, you can actually pray about that. Okay. there is a big upside in you sharing your ideas. Now, you don't want to be going everywhere and sharing your ideas to people that will not contribute to it. But no idea is original. Ideas build on something else. And when you share your idea, people can question it, people can help you to understand it better and give you more feedback that will make that idea better. So when I started my personal, the original idea that I had for my on-demand food delivery platform was basically just doing something that was like using bicycles to get food delivered from restaurant. And I shared with my colleague at work, and she gave me one. She said, "Okay, have you checked out this company called Just Eat?" And I checked that out, and I said, "Oh, they're doing something. They have a platform." And then she introduced me to somebody else, who then introduced me to another guy who joined me initially, worked on the idea better, and it started growing that way. And that is the story. That my story is not atypical. It is very similar to a lot of big companies that you see today. The idea starts with something small, and other people build on it. Other people come and say, "Oh yeah," and then they build on it, and then you see other insights. But if you, I've met, because I'm an investor, I met a lot of entrepreneurs who have this primitive idea and they keep it with them. They don't want to share it, and they will not grow it, and it will not even be executed because they don't even have the resources to execute it. And sharing the idea can enable people to come and join them. And because they have this thing from their pastor or from somebody or imam that told them, if you share your idea with somebody from your village will stop you from doing it. The most important thing about the idea is executing. And the biggest advantage that you have is to out execute your competition. That's the biggest advantage that you have. And so if you, and the other thing you have, if you're the original person that owns the idea, again, I hate this thing about, I own an idea, therefore it's stupid. It's, if you are the visionary of something, you will always be a step ahead of that competition. If you are the major visionary, you will always be a step ahead. And it's a factor of the people that you draw to yourself, how good you are innovating things, and how much you are executing and learning. And the last thing, most importantly, how much you are experimenting. The value of a startup, of a company, or anything actually, most things in life, is proportional to how many experiments that you are actually doing. That is super important. So I see somebody put in Flutter with and paste that there.
Yeah, paste that, yeah.
They are both approaching the same market, and there's nothing like, I know the story, and I don't want to go into the story because I know both guys well. They are my friends, and they are doing something similar. But we need, the market is not even, the market is big enough to accommodate 3 or 4 Flutterways and Paystack in Nigeria, and they are doing. There's a nuance to the difference that to what they are doing as well. So I'll say this. Yes, there are competition out there, but you want to get an idea where your advantage is out executing the other people. So if the risk is somebody's going to take my idea and run with it, then that person will kill you. Will actually out execute you anyway, even when after you launched. Except that idea is a book or a song that if you wrote, the first person to write it and sing it is the one that has the credit. But if it is business, it's super. Oh, except you have some maybe IP or secret or something like an algorithm.
Like
an algorithm.
Yeah.
And 95% of people that talk about idea that they don't want to share with other people, it's not algorithm. It's not IP. It's just that I have this thing and I want to sell cold water in a mug. But I don't want to share with people because I don't want somebody to copy me. Yeah, duh. If you do that, somebody else will do it anyway. It's like pure water. People sell pure water. The people that are making money will be the one that sell the most pure water, and not the person that started selling pure water in the first place.
Okay, all right. So just go ahead and share it.
Again, so let me caveat that by saying you have to be careful with the people you are sharing it with.
Okay.
So it's not careful in the sense of village people. I'm discounting that.
Okay.
A lot of conversation around that is stupid. And by the way, I'm talking here as a Christian and someone who believes in the supernatural. But a lot of things, and it's like, and as an African as well, most of this thing about superstition is actually, the devil is bigger than he is in Africa than it's supposed to be, actually.
Supposed to be.
Yeah, because because everybody amplify it. You go to a church or a mosque, and 80% of the prayers is about the devil rather than God Himself. So if you discount that, you choose the people that you share your ideas with based on the people that will create value or add value to your idea or probably join you.
Okay.
So imagine if Zuckerberg didn't share his idea with his roommate, who contributed to it, who helped him build the first version of Facebook, and he's holding it in his head. Somebody else is going to do it, and then that person will build the Facebook that we know today because that person is about to shared it with people that create that had value to it. So be careful about the people you share it with, not because they will steal it, but just look for people that will contribute to it. Good.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so my next question is, apart from telling people, I'm trying to create a flow of conversation here so that our notion that learning is the best way to start.
The line is breaking a little bit.
For you, maybe you can read that. It's Paula Williams. Oh, okay, all right. Somebody sent something to you on the hello.
Okay, yeah, okay. You want me to read something? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, somebody sent a message.
Okay.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I'm a vibe. Thank you for that. I decided to pray. But whether or not things will be done. Yes, I agree with you, Adebola, 100%.
Okay, so there's this general notion that learning is the best way to start. So, and usually, like, when do we strike a merger in quotes between learning and executing? Because you find out that a lot of people get boggled down with details, and like, there's a lot of, say, if I want to learn something on coding, there's a lot of generalized knowledge on coding right now, and sometimes it might be that you might want to specify exactly, like, what kind of coding do you want to learn, or say business, or like, there's a lot of general knowledge. That's what I mean. So, and people say that learning is the best way to start. So how do you do it so that you don't get so bogged down in details, and yet you're learning, but at the same time you're implementing? Because nobody ever saves the word from learning. Like, people actually just go out to save the word. Like, people actually go out to do things. So how do you strike that balance between learning and executing for a starter, for a beginner?
Yeah. So that's a good question. Let me just think for 1 second here. So I'll say it depends on what you want to. I mean, it depends on the purpose. Okay. So I stopped buying books now because I now get things in my and I use apps to read my books. But if you look at my study books, they're for different things, from religious books to business books to history books to a lot of things. And all the books have different purpose, and the things that I read have different purpose. So you have to start with a purpose. Why do I want to learn? And start with that. So, okay, I want to be, and it could be the example that you gave. I want to be a developer. So I study Yoruba in university, but I like this coding word and I want to be a developer. And then first of all, you want to maybe seek with a developer that you think is successful and is doing well. And how can I become a developer? And what aspect of coding or what aspect of this industry can I go into? Which one should I be focusing on? Which technology will be good in the future, and do you think there's more prospect for? And then a good developer will be able to tell you give you honest feedback about which technology, which language you should be focusing on, and I also ask you what interests you. Do you want to be a back-end developer? Do you want to be a front-end developer? Do you want to do different aspects, whatever? And they will be able to give you that insight. Now, knowing the endpoint or having an idea of the endpoint will now enable you to then work your way back to say, okay, what do I want to learn? Which language do I want to focus on? What skills do I want to acquire in order to get there? And that is very important for structured, purpose-driven learning. But for interesting bits, like I just want to learn about so and so, like I spent a lot of this year reading this book, for example. I've read it before. and it's a big book. It's a book about the Yoruba history, right? Yeah. Am I reading it because I want to be a Yoruba history expert? No way, no. I just love it and I enjoy it. I enjoy reading a book that was written in 1800s. And it could call that general knowledge, but it's something that I enjoy, and I will be starting maybe a discussion on that book later. So so I said all of that to say there is a lot of learning that you can learn generally, reading novels, reading. Somebody is playing radio in the back.
Yeah, please can you mute your mic?
I think you
Read
can.
one.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
reading novels, reading stuff, but also there's a structured learning that you can go if it's about you changing career or learning something important. And you're right, I agree with you. There's so many ways in which you can go. You can learn, you can read a lot about coding and different. You can waste your time doing that, but you can be more structured as well. But we live in an interesting time now where actually for you to become good at something, you don't have to actually read too much. There are lots of courses and learning platforms. There are lots of programs that you can join to become good at that thing, rather than just sitting down and reading books, which would have been the only way you can learn maybe 15 years ago. But now you can join a program, you can join a course, you can go online, you can go to Udemy, you can go to and get some courses that will enable you, that will give you some basis for that career that you're looking to focus in.
okay. All right. So, okay. Another question I have here is, so, okay, trying to pick out of the ones I have here. Okay, so I'm going to, okay, this question is quite contextual, but I hope if there's a way you can fine-tune it. But I have it here as, so people say things like when you start or like you're supposed to stick with it and stay there for a while and more likely, like they say things like don't give up and all of that. And the thing is that I think sometimes it's actually good to leave. It's actually good to give up. It's actually good to quit on an idea. So when do you know? Like, how do you know when to leave? Like, if something is not working. In fact, I think I'm sorry. This might be a unconventional thinking, but I think I'm one of those people that believe that if something is, there's a way you know if something is eventually going to work out or not. And if say 1 year, 2 years, you've been trying to do it and it's not say gaining ground, you can actually leave. But then people say not to give up, not to give up on your dreams, not to quit on your ideas and all of that. And usually it sounds like a textbook kind of talk to me. So how do you know when to leave, like when to leave something?
Yeah, that's another good question, and I'll try and address it the best way I know. And again, like every answer, it is subjective as well. Yeah, you're about to say something.
Okay, yes, you could actually give us your personal examples, like things that you started. Because I've gone through your bio and I see that okay, you've actually done, you're like a serial entrepreneur in code. So like I'm sure that you'd have actually done some things that didn't work out. So when did you know how to work out of those things and you didn't?
Yeah, so like most things in life, the answer is more nuanced than a lot of people put together in a maxim, like just do it, or when you're going through it, don't stop, keep going, never give up. And those maxims, they are good motivation for some, but life is more nuanced than just a one liner. So yeah, like the first answer I gave as well about context and background and situation and stuff. The same thing about what if you are doing something. Don't give up because you are feeling, oh, this is painful for me and I cannot, I don't want to invest into this as much. An investment might not just be money, but it might be energy, it might be emotions and stuff. I don't want to invest all as much anymore because something else is less painful. Don't give up because, oh, yeah, I'm bored here now. There's something that is shining object that I want.
Okay.
But give up if it's not working. If it's not working, and the premise that you went in with it before is no longer true, and that's why for every business, I used to run a course of starter that we call the Hustle Bootcamp. And one of the key things that we said that I told people that was that your business idea should not be a blueprint. It should be an experiment. It should be hypothesis rather than, because a blueprint is, this is what I want to do, this is how it should end, and you have to follow that blueprint. But it should be an hypothesis where I'm testing. I have this set of hypotheses that will people buy. This is a business idea. This is the method I want to use. Will people buy? And I want to test different things. And at every point in time, if your hypotheses are not true, it validates or invalidates whether you should continue or not. And one of it could be, can I raise money? Okay. Or would I get customers? Or will customer repeat buying this thing? Okay, I launched a pure water business that has some juice in it, whatever. And my hypothesis that people will buy this Abu, not normal pure water. Okay, and another hypothesis that people will buy it again and again. But maybe they bought it once and they don't like it, they don't buy it again and again, and then the business is not working. Then give up. Give up not because you are a loser. Give up because you are staying true to the hypothesis that you have. That is this. If this is
okay. Or an hypothesis, not a blueprint.
It's not a blueprint. Business should be, especially startup, should be like that. Especially startup where a lot of the time startup you are testing so many things. The idea is not, you're still a testing. Your business method, your methodology or your business model is still unproven for most startups at the beginning. Unlike a standard business, like if you're selling cars in Nigeria, you know, okay, you buy cheap, you sell up. You know how it works. Yeah, but for startup, you don't know. You don't know what will happen. So if those things are not staying true, then give up. And I'll give an example of myself. So we started with two businesses. So one is the food delivery business, the on-demand food delivery. The business idea is amazing. The business model was valid, and it was validated by one of our competition that they raised as of now, they raised $1.5 billion, and they are in about 20 countries. And we started around the same time. They started in London, we started in Bristol. But when they started raising a lot of money, we couldn't raise money anymore. A lot of investors in the UK just said, Dotun, these guys are raising money, and it's only one market, and there are few investors. So, and my investors actually told me, Dotun, just give up on this thing, pack up the business and move to something else, and we'll support you. You've been a good team, you've proven yourself good. And I was saying, no, I don't give up. I want to continue. And I continued. Now, I was lucky though, because I continued for some months. And then Just came and approached me and I matched with them. But it could have ended up in a bad way as well. Because at that point, I knew that I couldn't raise more money. And the only way is to exit this business rather than just continue to do it. And I would have been a very poor, sad man now if I'm still doing that business. Because the hypothesis that we have is not just that the business can work. That's not the hypothesis, because it's working. The hypothesis was that, can we make this big? Can we make it $1 billion business? Can we scale all across Europe? And at the moment when we knew that we cannot scale across Europe because there's someone else who has raised all the money, then that premise is not working anymore. The only possible way is to just give up. And I was lucky that I gave up in a way that wasn't too bad, but I had to give up and stop that and then do something else. Same with Starter. So Starter idea, actually Starter wasn't supposed to last for that long. Starter was, it's kind of coming to Nigeria, I realized, okay, there are so many entrepreneurs that I could support and help. And then it's okay, how do I do this? Okay, I'm going to start an advisory that is doing support for entrepreneurs, writing newsletter and doing programs and webinars and events. And the idea was that, okay, I'm going to do this for a few months because I have some money. I could stay without working for maybe 6 months or up to a year. And if this works, maybe if I can make more money from the business and it can sustain, I will stick with it. But if not, I will give up. So I gave myself 6 months. Because that's the amount of time that my wife would give me to do this without burning down our whole house, right? So it's okay. So I have a runway for about 6 months. And then it started, and then it became some successful, in a way successful. We started making some money. I was able to pay salaries and stuff. And it lasted for 3 years. And at the end, by the time it was going, I said, okay, what do I really want to get out of this? I want to make more impact, and I want to actually, the best way I can do this, and also make money as well. And we're not making a lot of money in Starter. We're making money to pay salaries. We're doing some consulting. We're doing that, but I could make better impact by becoming an investor. At that point, I had to make a decision. Do I just continue starting? And that way I knew that I'll be punching below my weight, or do I go for what I really think I can do better, which is becoming an investor? And I move on to that. So Starter now morphed into something else that is now called Growthlab. Now, you can say I gave up there. And I have to, because my hypothesis at the beginning, yeah, it worked for some time, but it's been disproved over time that, okay, the business will continue the way it is, but it's not something that's the best use of my time and energy and effort. So lastly, I'll just summarize by saying, yes, don't give up because you think it's no longer, there's something else that you don't know. There are people like that, temperamentally, they cannot stay on one thing for a long time.
One thing for a long time.
But having said that, though, it could be a good trait. They're just good starter. If they know that, then they should be able to get somebody else who can continue, and they can go. It could be a good trait. But some people who are just, and they mask that lack of being able to stick to one thing for a long time with, yeah, I just, this thing is not working anymore. I just discount it and move on to something else. And they keep moving, and they will never be successful in anything. So those people that maxim can work. Don't give up. Don't give up. You can continue. You can turn this thing around if you stick at it, especially if your hypothesis is still true. But give up if you know that what you are testing is not true anymore, and the data is showing you that this is not working. Even though your emotion is you're attached to it, like a baby, just give up that emotion and look at the data.
Okay, I think we have some questions in the chat room. Okay, so I think here, I'm not too sure, but I'll read it out. But does not working, in quotes, mean you can't see the metrics of success intended, or you aren't meeting your expected projections, or when disruptions are making your business irrelevant? That's Debola Williams.
Yeah, that's a good question, Debola. So it depends on the matrix that you set for yourself, and what is your measure of success. So measure of success could be revenue that you're making from the business, and sometimes it doesn't have to be revenue. A business might not work not because you are making money, not because you're not making money. It could be that the business is not creating value to the customer. So you're not having repeat customer, for example. If the hypothesis of the business, and I give a simple example here, if it's a subscription-based business, so let's say you have a membership platform where the success of the business is that people stick to the membership for at least three or 4 months or 6 months to make it successful. But you are so good at marketing that you're getting new people to come every time. But they don't stay. They come 1 month, but the membership sucks, and then they leave after. Now, you might be making money because you're getting new people come every month, but you're actually losing money in the long run because you spend a lot of money to get them in, only for them to leave after a month. Now, if you're talking to your accountant who is looking at the flow of cash, they'll say, oh yeah, your revenue is going up, it's doing well, but if you look at somebody who has a growth mindset, say, actually, your business is not working because the retention is bad. And so if the metric that you set for yourself is, can I create value for my members? At that point, the revenue that you're making is irrelevant. It's actually retention rate that matters. And at that point, you can ask, actually, the membership is not working. And if there's something you can change, fundamentally change it. But if you cannot change it, then at that point, you can give up on that thing. So it depends on a metric that is really intrinsic to the success of the business idea.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We have another question here from Zainab Atanda. She says, as a successful businessman now, what can you say is the greatest challenge you faced while starting?
What? Sorry?
She says, I'm coming. Let me go back there. So she says, as a successful businessman now, what can you say is the greatest challenge you faced while starting?
Yeah, I'll say the first premise of the question. My wife might dispute that. It's good for my people to hear, but my wife will dispute that I'm a successful businessman.
Okay.
But what can I say is the greatest challenge that I faced while starting? That's a good question. Let me think. Mm, it's there are lots of challenges. So I don't know how to pick which one. And I wouldn't say it is raising money. I've always been very successful and lucky with raising money for my business. It is actually proving, actually, one of the biggest challenges is hiring the right people. That's one, and retaining them. But the biggest one for me has always been quickly understanding what is the most important thing for this business, understanding the one metric that matters, that I need constantly obsessed about for the business. And in some cases, like I just said last time, it's not always the revenue. It could be retention, it could be something else. And quickly getting that and focus and making the business or optimizing the business for that metric is the biggest challenge I've always had. And so in some people it's about raising money, but I've been really privileged that and lucky that the two businesses I've started, I've always found it easy to raise money with people and maybe with angel investors initially, and then grow it. But the biggest challenge is just knowing what makes this business work. That is most important over every other thing, and optimizing towards that.
Okay, so we have questions here. Okay, so I'll start with Jeremiah Babasom. He says, as an investor who has seen and met with hundreds of entrepreneurs, what's that wow trait in successful entrepreneurs?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. And I don't want to go too much into it, but I'll just say what comes to my head now. The wow trait in a successful entrepreneur that I've seen is the ability to see a future, to see the future that they can create. It's different from what is happening now. And that's where disruption comes in. To see whatever that person is not seeing about the future and be able to articulate that future, but also articulate how their business will shape that future. And that can apply to anything, like how you can sell the water in a bottle better than every other person, but see the future and articulate how your business and how their business will shape the future that they're seeing. And the best entrepreneurs are those guys who can do that, and they can gather, because they will be the people that can gather others around them to join that vision. Because actually, the most important is about execution, and execution is not just one person. It's about getting the right people around you. And the best people that can gather people around them, it's not about paying them the most amount of salary. It's the guy who has the guy or the girl who has the best vision and can articulate that vision well, and articulate how the business fit into that, and get other people to join that and say, I'm joining this business because it's a purpose in my life. I can see how this is big for the future. And when we see this kind of entrepreneur, I said, wow. Because for me, in terms of investing with the firm that we're in right now, that I'm in right now, investing in businesses, one of the criteria that we use, or that I use personally, is, can I work for this guy? Can I work for this girl? Right? Before thinking about investing, can I work? If I can, and if I say an entrepreneur, I can see where this guy is going to. I can work for him. Then I'll be ready to invest in his business. That's the wow. There are other traits in it, but the wow trait is that vision, and articulate that vision well and get people along to join them.
Okay, so wow, I hope we go through all these questions. So we have two questions here. The first question is, how do you convince investors as a starter for any project or business? Then she continues with saying, raising capital is either through debt or equity. In preparing a pitch deck to investors or lenders, do you advise entrepreneurs to make it short or detailed?
That one is quick. Make it short. It depends on the lender or debt. But if it's a first thing, make it short. The purpose of every deck is not to tell them everything about it. The purpose of the deck is to make it interesting for them to ask for a meeting. That's the purpose of the deck. Is to get them to invite you for a meeting. And then of course, if you're sharing a deck in a meeting, the deck is not as important as you talking about your business. So the shorter, the better. How do you convince an investor? Depending on the investors and what they're looking for. So the most important thing you could do is to research the investors first, is to understand, because investors are looking for partnership as well. And good investors have different type of business profile, entrepreneur stage, amount, whatever that they invest in. And so understanding, so there's no generic kind of investor, except maybe the angel investors of dad and mom or friends and family. But beyond that, institutional investors, outside money, understand what they're looking for, how you fit into their own plan. And that will be convince them that, okay, my business fit into your plan, X, Y, and Z. So rather than just sending generic email to investors to say invest in my business.
Okay, all right. So here I think I have another question rather that says so I have this grand idea in my head, like I have this big idea in my head. What am I supposed to do? Do I create a website or print t-shirts and all those fancy things that people do? So what am I supposed to do?
It depends on the idea. So what's the first thing that you need to do to validate the idea? Start with that. If the first thing you need to use to validate the idea is a landing page to say, hey, I'm about to launch apple juice. And if that's the idea, so say for example, the idea is apple juice, and you can create a landing page, say, hey, we are about to launch an apple juice, and get email from people that love the type of apple juice that you're about to launch, and start engaging with those people. You start with that. Okay, or start with testing the idea by creating the apple juice and test with, let's say you want to start a restaurant and you want to create a different kind of food. Okay, start a food in your house and share with friends and then get their feedback. So again, don't keep the idea in your head, because that's not where it will. Ideas in your head will not be done. The ideas don't do themselves. They have to get out. And then you start with something very small, like this with starter. Even with my previous meals.co.uk, it started with a landing page. With the food delivery business, it started with just one landing page that says, good food in Bristol can now be delivered to your door. Sign up to join us. And we started getting emails, and then restaurants started contacting me and say, hey, I'd like to join this platform. That was months before we launched. We got restaurants on board, we got people that are ready, and we launched. It became that. I just started with a newsletter. I sent a newsletter to my friends, say, hey, I'm about to start doing this in Nigeria, and I'll be sending a newsletter to you, and that was it. And I made a landing page, and that was how we started. So that doesn't mean that every business can be started with a landing page, but I'm saying that you start with something first to validate this. Lastly, I'll say, do not make this mistake that business is equal to you having a business card and having an office and having a fancy logo and having a fancy website. And a lot of people spend their time doing all of those things when you've not validated the business itself. You go and register. Sometimes you don't even need to register your business until you've validated few things first. So don't go and start having an office. Okay, people don't do office now, but don't go and start having a fanciful website or logo or business card. I'm a CEO now, or have a t-shirt. Those things are irrelevant to your business. The most relevant thing is the customers, paying customers, and validate with them first.
Okay, all right. So Jeremiah says, what was the motivation behind moving from being an academic to being an entrepreneur? Was it impact rather, or wealth?
I wouldn't, that's a good question. I wouldn't say either of them though. I use the word a lot, accidental entrepreneur. I was an accidental entrepreneur. I was doing a part-time job while I was still doing while I was still working at the university, when I spotted that gap. And I just, oh, this can be done. I like it. And I just followed it. And then I didn't even know it's going to become a thing, because some of my friends heard about it and supported me. So it wasn't, and then later I started seeing that this could be big, right? Because the idea that I had before, that just run a small business, I don't know anything about startup when I started. I didn't know anything about people raising lots of money and becoming a millionaire. I didn't know until I started. So I wasn't motivated by reading about people exiting businesses. I didn't have that privilege then. Just after I started, I started reading about that. So I wasn't motivated by that. Neither was I motivated by impact of changing the world. Because man, when I started the business, it was supposed to be just food delivery stuff, helping restaurants that don't deliver in Bristol. That was the idea. That was what I had. But when I started doing it, people said, oh, you can use technology to do this. And then I started reading a lot about startups and how technology can make it better. And then I morphed into a startup. So neither of those, maybe what motivated is paying my mortgage. Maybe if there's anything, being able to pay my mortgage and pay for my house. Yeah. But even that was not the big thing for me. And that was not the major thing. It's just doing something that I find that I love, that I enjoy, and rewards me financially.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Then we have another one here. The ability to scale is overrated. Resist the temptation of thinking too big too soon. This is called from Guy Kawasaki's book. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I agree. But I wouldn't say that ability to scale is overrated, though. I would just say that, yes, you should resist the urge to scale too soon, especially when you've not, again, I kept using the word validate. Again, it comes from the experiment and background in doing research. If you've not validated core part of your operating model, you might likely scale something that is not working. So if you have a negative unit economics business, which I've tried to explain about what I mean by unit economics, and you guys can study, you guys are learned people and you read a lot. You can read about unit economics and why it is different from revenue economics. If you have a negative unit economics business, you will scale into a big loss if you scale too quickly. So you need to actually get the core of your business working before you can scale. And look at restaurants that are doing well. If you want to scale a restaurant, for example, if you start a restaurant and your vision is to become the biggest restaurant network in Nigeria, bigger than Mr. Biggs, but with your foresight, your food is still not good. Your supply chain is not very well done. The operations in the restaurant, people are still waiting. Your staff are not trained properly. They don't know how to interact with customers. The food, you're not getting feedback about the food well, but people are still coming because they are hungry in that area. You still don't understand the target market you're going after. Well, because you have money, you build one restaurant and you didn't get feedback. You build another one, build a third one. You will run into a ditch if you don't really focus on the core and make it well before you start scaling. And that's where I agree with Guy Kawasaki there, but I wouldn't say it is overrated.
All right, we wouldn't say it's overrated. So here's another question. What would you advise? I think I like this question in particular. What do you advise rather? Do you go in search of ideas or do you wait for ideas?
I assume that person is asking in terms of as an entrepreneur, right? As an entrepreneur, I don't think there's, again, maybe I've used this a lot again, nuanced. There's nuance to life than one way or the other, right? And it's one of my biggest lessons last year. Life is not always black and white. Some become successful by seeking ideas. Some wait for ideas to come to them. And you can read stories of many entrepreneurs that ideas just fall on their lap by other people and they run with it. And some, they just had their own idea. And some, they actually run with other people's ideas. And some, they tested different ideas and then they stuck with one. And some, they actually improved on existing ideas. So there are many ways to skin a cat when it comes to business. There's no one way to this.
There are many ways to skin a cat when it comes to business. There's no one way to this. So Adebola William asks here that, what would you advise someone that's leaving the corporate world? But I would like to add that leaving the corporate world to where? Okay, thank you. She says to start their own business. What are the essential things they have to put in place?
Okay, first of all, listen to your wife before you leave the corporate world.
What about if they are not married?
If you're not married, listen. That's a good one, actually. Listen to the people that that you trust the most, that are vested in your life. So it could be your significant others or family, friends, or whatever. So listen well, because they can help you see things. But again, don't listen to them, because don't put all your weight in what they say, because sometimes they can say that because vested you on the cushion that you have right now. So, but I just use the wife as a backhand, because if you are married, you have to think about, okay, how do we pay for all of this? But having said that, there are very good stories of people who left corporate world and venture into business, and they do well, and they took the risk, and the risk paid off. And business is about taking risk, which is very important. And sometimes you might fall flat, but but the upside could be huge. So, but the core of that question is, what do you need to do? What do you need to take with you? One is, you need to know that business world is going to be different. You might not have all the support system that you have when you are in the corporate world. In the corporate world, somebody is paying your salary, somebody is, you have maybe assistant, you have an analyst that can do all your research for you. If you want to travel, you just, I don't know, depending on what position you are in, you want to travel for a conference, you just apply to your manager and you just say, fine. You don't have to think about the impact of that on the bottom line for the business. You just send it to your EA, and the EA book the flights, and then they get a taxi to pick you from home, and they book all the hotels and blah blah. Okay. When you're running your business, you don't do that, right? You, especially when you're starting, all of that is gone. So all of those question, analysts, researcher is gone. So you have to mentally prepare for that. You also have to mentally prepare for end of every month. Before it used to be a good time for you. End of the month, salary, yes.
Salary's coming in.
End of every month is now, ooh, I'm going to pay 5 people. I'm going to pay 7 people, right? And money is coming in. So be mentally prepared for that. But having said all of that, I think I have a thesis about some of the best entrepreneurs are people who have expertise that they've gained in a corporate world, and they've understood a particular market and the gap in that market. And they can execute against that by stepping out and building a business. And there are examples of those people who have worked in telcos for a long time, and they stepped out and they build a business that is solving problems that the telcos are not seeing. Or bank, they work in a bank for a long time, and they stepped out and they built a different type of financial service or fintech. So there are people like that, and actually want to support entrepreneurs like that who have that unique understanding. So I said that to encourage more people to come out of corporate world, and yeah, maybe you stop. Maybe your salary will now reduce from 3 million naira that you're earning per month to 1.5 million or 1 million naira. Instead of 2 cars, you now have 1 car. But the upside is huge. You can make huge impact and make lots of money. And we can see that with people like Michelle Elegbe from InterSwitch and Charles, who started InterSwitch. They stepped out of corporate world to do that.
Okay. All right, guys. Wow. I think we spent over an hour. Okay, somebody is asking that, is the Hustle Bootcamp still available?
Yes, but it's now with Growthlab. Growthlab.ng. I think they tried to do the program just before COVID, but maybe they stopped it now. So because it was an online program, so I just did the courses, but it now sits with Growthlab.ng. And so it's still available. That's the short answer. But I don't know when they're going to start a program again. I think early this year, I knew that they were about to start it, and they want to do both the online, the one that I recorded, and also a physical one, because Growthlab has a co-working space in Lekki, and they were about to start it maybe around March or thereabout, but COVID disrupted everything. So I would say you should follow Growthlab, www.growthlab.ng, and you might know when they are starting their program again.
Okay. I think somebody, I don't know if, so somebody is saying here, Anjola Adeshina is saying, so my subscription is still accessible.
Okay, if you subscribe, yeah, maybe. If you subscribe to Growthlab, so to Growthlab, yes, you might be able to have access to it. But if you subscribe to, if I'm assuming that person joined the bootcamp, the first time or the second time that we did it, it was on Teachable. Teachable is a platform where you can learn. So I'm not sure if it's still there, because again, everything is now moved to Growthlab. But I'm not sure, because maybe we stopped paying for for Teachable. But if you join the program, people that join the program were able to download it because it was downloaded. So if you downloaded it, you might have it. If you didn't, I'm sorry, maybe you might not be able to have access to it if it's no longer on Teachable.
Okay. So I think this would be our last question so that we do not use the audio. I think we spent over an hour already, or close to an hour. So Adebola Williams is asking, what about someone transitioning between careers? What would you advise?
So without knowing the details of which career that person is transitioning to, I wouldn't be able to give a very good informed advice. But again, go back to why. Start with why. What do I want to achieve here? And it's possible to shift from one career to another, but just be ready to learn. So I moved from being being an environmental management person, academic, to becoming working in finance as an investor. Actually, it's funny. Somebody reached out to me recently, a guy doing research from Harvard, said he read one of my articles on air quality and wanted to, many years ago, I wanted to talk to me about it. I'm still about to reply and say, hey, dude, I don't know anything about that world anymore. I have a PhD in environmental management, but I don't know anything about it. I'm the wrong person to talk to because now I've moved to something else, and yeah, you can read my papers, but I'm such a dumb guy to talk to on that aspect of life. So it's basically being able to revenge yourself, learn and go through this steep learning curve. But again, read a lot, talk to people who are in the career that you're about to move to, and get what they know and map your way through it.
All right. Thank you very much. Do we have any final parting words for Dr. Dotun? Oh, there's another question here. I hope you have enough time for us, sir, or you can give us more time. So somebody here asks that, do you think Nigeria needs more entrepreneurs?
Yes, I think so. I agree. I think so. We need more entrepreneurs, but the Nigerians are entrepreneurs, but we need more. We need people who are not just building business for survival, but we need people who can who can use innovative business model to solve the obvious problems that we have in Nigeria. There's so many problems that we have in Africa, and that's the basis of my thesis, by the way, of coming back to Nigeria and working and doing what I'm doing now. There's so many challenges in Africa, in Nigeria particularly, that we see every day. And the go-to solution that most people have is to think that government needs to solve that problem. So you look at the traffic problem in government. You look at healthcare problems in government. And I agree, government needs to create that enabling environment. But if you look at the history of the world and industrialization and countries that are now doing well, the history is that entrepreneurs looked at challenges and they apply innovative business model to solve those challenges, and they monetize it. And that was the base of the book written by Efosa and Clay Christensen, who last year, and
that prosperity paradox.
Yeah, that entrepreneurs are the one that look at those problems and they solve them and they monetize them. Maybe government now build infrastructure around it, and I think we need that. Except we're saying that there's no more problem to be solved in Nigeria. There's so many problems to be solved: primary health, education, energy, food security, and a lot of things. And then entrepreneurs can look at that and say, how do we address those? How do we address, for example, there is still traffic on Lagos Island to mainland, and there are many things that entrepreneurs can build. And in America, entrepreneurs build the railway system. It's not the government to say, hey, we need people from the East Coast to the West Coast.
That's true.
Let's expand that. Entrepreneurs they were racing against each other. Yes, the government enabled, but they built the railway system in order for them to, and they did it because they needed to move goods and services from one part of the country to another. So they did it to enable their own business. Now it becomes the transport network that we have. Road as well. The road network was built by entrepreneurs because people started building. So when cars started becoming a thing, okay, and people started building cars, okay, right, we now move from horse carriage to car. Horse carriages can only work within a very limited area, you only move from building the town. You don't travel a long distance most of the time with horse carriages. But so when people started building cars, which came out of horse carriages, so okay, now we have cars that can move far, but we need more people to buy cars. How do we enable them to buy cars? Let's build roads. Let's enlarge the road network that we have so that it can be cars. A very perfect example to that is Michelin. I don't know how many people know about Michelin. Michelin tires, but you know Michelin star restaurants. Okay, they are linked. So Michelin star restaurants is a ranking system in Europe where you rank restaurants based on how good they are, and they've been doing that for hundreds of years. So Michelin. So you go to a restaurant, it's 3-star Michelin or 4-star Michelin. They are high caliber restaurants with good chefs. And the story behind it was that Michelin were building, they are selling tires and for cars. And the only way they could sell tires and to enable that car industry to keep on going is to encourage people to go out more, to leave their town, to travel. And so how do you make people travel? Especially when most people work in the same town, is to actually create a guide of places that they can go to. So the way to catalyze that is, okay, let's go to all the restaurants in France and write a very good guide about all the restaurants people can go to, and rank those restaurants. Say, hey, there is a restaurant in Toulouse, and we've gone there, and it's 5-star restaurant. You can drive there this weekend. And people started driving, and in order to initiate that, for people to buy more tires. So I started to say that entrepreneurs build a lot of infrastructure that we see today in the north. And Nigerian entrepreneurs can do that by thinking bigger. I know it's going to take a long time because most of us are still first generation doing well, so we don't have wealth to fall back on. So most entrepreneurs are still thinking for survival. How do I pay my bills? How do I pay my children's school fees? But when we move beyond that, we start thinking more infrastructurally. How do I build a business that will be a real network between Lagos and Calabar, or a restaurant, and build a very good chain along that side? Or how do entrepreneurs solve that problem of rail network across Nigeria, or travel, or food, or like now, a higher percentage of tomatoes from the north in Nigeria is destroyed before it gets to Lagos. How do you build a cold chain network for that to solve that problem intrinsically, and build a good revenue from that? So we need more entrepreneurs because we have a lot of problems that can be solved using innovative business model.
Okay, all right. So I think let me just read this through. And I think we'll have to stop here. So please don't send any more questions. We have to let Dr. Dotun go. Ujuya says, the Nigerian system is different, though. The policies are not enabling for entrepreneurs to scale. So we have lots of small businesses that are not profitable. Okay, Bookhub says that, sir, hold on, let me just read everything through. So you just take it once. Nigeria's environment is harsh. Dana Batunda says, entrepreneurs in Nigeria have tried it in the fashion business. We just really need more. Then somebody says, no hold money. Okay, so Obeanujun Dedigwe says, if we are clamoring for more entrepreneurs in Nigeria, we should also find ways to address government policies that will avail the opportunity for scaling, else we are just rigmaroling.
I agree with all the sentiment here about, yes, the environment is harsh, government is not helping. We need enabling environment, and I've said that, I think I used that word a lot, enabling environment, and I've heard that severally from government as well, about the role of the government is to provide the enabling environment. So yes, I totally agree with all those sentiments. But if you read Efosa's book and Christensen's book, they actually address that in a better way than I could now, which is, if you look back in America 150 years ago, America was as bad, if not
worse.
Nigeria now. Corruption was rife.
Yeah.
There was not a lot of hold money. Large majority of the population were actually, a large majority of the population were just coming out of slavery. So there were a lot of poor people. And some people would hold money from the old, but very, very small number of them. The gap between the rich and the poor is so high. A lot of people are just migrating from Europe who are coming from poor island from Ireland, from Italy coming to the country. There was no infrastructure. Government was very corrupt. There's some states where there were godfathers that owned the whole state, right? and so, so many things were bad, and the GDP was worse than Nigeria now. And entrepreneurs, going through those very harsh and bad environment, were still able to do something, which we see in Nigeria as well too. And also able to do something. And then as they become big, they started forcing government policy to follow them. They started shaping government policy. So because as you start doing something, and we can see examples of that in Nigeria where government, so a fintech is a good example. 10 years ago, the likes of Paystack and Flutterwave, nobody knows about them. But now, the CBN knows them, and now they've shaped policy on payments in Nigeria. And you can just multiply that by 10 times in the next 10 years on how many industries will come out and they will shape government policies. And you start having a lot of entrepreneurs becoming either working in government or becoming elected officers in government and shaping things themselves. Now this thing, so I say this because this is not fixed, it's not a one-time fixed solution. It's going to take a bit of a time, and for us to appreciate the kind of progress that we make, we need to look back hundreds of years rather than 10 years or 5 years or even now. We need to look back and see, okay, how has history, countries like similar trajectory like us. Okay, we can say, okay, America and Europe are far out there, but you can also look at Malaysia and other countries, or Singapore, or even South Korea. South Korea, in our living memory, in the 80s, they're one of the poorest countries in the world. And yes, they had a good government, but entrepreneurs shaped that country. So I'm saying all of this not to make it look simplistic and say, especially for entrepreneurs who are probably writing this question, like maybe Obiajulu and Zainab, who are in the thick of it now, and who are facing maybe bad government policies, who are probably they are being taxed in an unnecessary way and things. So I could say all of this in an academic ivory tower thing, but they are facing this thing regularly on a daily basis. So they don't have that luxury of looking at 100 years of history of how America got over it. It's okay, how does that pay my bill now? How does that help my business now? So I can understand that. And I can understand where they're coming from, and I get it. We need more. We need to put more pressure on government. But we can also step back and see that the future we're trying to create will be a combination of us, entrepreneurs and government, doing something. And we have more leverage than government to shape things.
All right, thank you very much, sir. I think this is a very good place to stop. Okay, we still have so I think we might want to carry this conversation to Instagram. I'm going to meet Dr. Dotun there.
Yeah. Or the best way to actually get me is on Twitter. Actually, you can put
he responds really fast on Twitter. So I'll drop his handle so we can just follow him up on Twitter. Then have our chats with him. Let me see what we have here. So I think this is a good place to stop, actually.
Yeah.
So Uju, you might want to take your questions to Dr. Dotun. She's saying something about America's encouraging capitalism then and now, but then she's still very grateful for the insights.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a question. I think she was affirming something that okay, they encourage it, but the country was built on that capitalism, which has its own bad and good side. And Nigeria, we're still confused about our model and our philosophy, depending on who is the president or which ruling party is having the most at every point in time. But we're still not far off from that, encouraging entrepreneurs, and it's getting there gradually. And we hope that we continue that trend, barring something worse happening like war or coup or things badly happening. I think we're making some little progress towards shaping our own future, using entrepreneurship, using innovation, and very interesting business models.
Okay, so I would love to. I think this is the best place to stop this conversation. But then before you go, what are the 5 fun random facts about you? Tell us 5 random facts about you before you go.
Wow. I don't know, which my life is not as interesting as people think it is. If you look at me on Twitter, or if you read my profile, it's not as interesting
But
as.
you actually sound very fun on Twitter. I follow you well on Twitter. So I think
Cool. I could be when I get some Twitter can be very distracting. So sometimes I just ignore it. But I could be, yeah. So what are interesting facts? I okay, maybe this one. Some of you might know that. So I'm a great grandson of an Alafin for your. Uh,
oh,
so yeah, so that's a very interesting fact about me. So my
okay,
great grandfather used to be Alafin Ladibolu, uh,
okay,
who died in 1945 or thereabout. So
okay,
anyway, and he was so he got me. So I grew up in a family that is rich in history and talking about a lot.
okay, okay.
Whereas I've got a very interesting 3-year-old whom I forced downstairs now with his mom.
And I think it jumps as high as you actually.
Yeah. He was, yeah. So we go for a walk every day, and so that was one of the walks that he was jumping as I was jumping. What else? So I'm not as adventurous when it comes to food. So like my wife will always remind me, I stick with some just food that I know of. So I'm not that good, even though, and I don't have very good relationship with food. So I find food to be distracting. Um, so I could just go on without eating for a long time. Even though I worked in the food business before, but having said that, I enjoy meeting people over food. So which is contradictory. So I don't like because of food, but I enjoy that meeting with people and people chatting over food. And
Okay,
if I want to meet people in Lagos, I'll say, hey, let's meet over food or let's meet over drinks.
okay,
I enjoy that a lot. And what else? I think those are the ones I could think of now.
okay, okay. So I think we'll have you over food when all this is over.
That would be great. Yes. And I just enjoy that chatting with people. I enjoy that chatting with. So at my place in Lagos,
All right.
I invite people over
Yeah.
to come and have food or have drinks in my place in Lagos, and I hope to go back after all of this Corona is over.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, sir. It was a nice time. It was fun hanging out with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope to see more of you on Twitter and
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
doing dope stuff.
Actually, I just said before I came online. So I started a new podcast with a friend of mine called Tunde Leye, whom I think you guys should have. Tunde Leye wrote the book called Afonja
Okay.
the Rise. And
Afonja the Rice, Sundele. Okay.
we're starting a podcast. We'll be talking about the Yoruba history of the 18th and 19th century. And we just
Okay.
so I just sent a tweet recently, just before I came online here, about
Oh, okay.
Ijaye and Ibadan War and how that war in 1860 Ibadan Ijaye War. So you guys can go there and read about it and then look forward to our podcast. But I said it out because I wanted people to challenge us to do the podcast. I don't have the time to do it.
Okay. All right, sir. We'll definitely look up. We'll check him out. We'll check Sundele out, and we'll definitely follow up on your podcast. Thank you very much once again.
Okay. Have fun, everyone. And
Yeah. Bye.